Welcome to everybody present for the meeting in the Civic Centre and those observing the meeting on Microsoft Teams. There is no fire drills expected this evening, so in the event of an alarm sounding, please quickly make your way out of the building. There are 3 exits from this room, which members can use to vacate the premises. Please switch off mobile phones or place them on silent. If needed to take a call, please take the call outside of the council chamber. Please do not leave any possessions unaccompanied and or report any unaccompanied possessions. Remember to take any possessions with you when the meeting has concluded or as you leave the meeting. This meeting will be subject to filming or audio recording by others in accordance with the Council's filming protocol. Anyone who remains in the meeting following this announcement will have deemed to have consented to allow their image to be recorded and broadcast. I would like to remind members to turn their microphone on when speaking and to sit back from the microphones to assist in the audio recording. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Bergen, Hughes and Hartstone.
Councillor Moxon.
Yeah, I've got apologies from Councillor Anderson, who's ill, so she won't be attending tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wright.
Apologies for Councillor Barton, UB8. He's on his way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Item 2. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Item 3. Councillor Swinscoe, will you propose the minutes, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to propose the minutes as it reads. Right, thank you.
Councillor Ellis, will you second the minutes, please?
I'll second the minutes as being correct.
Does anyone have any amendments to propose on the accuracy of the minutes? We will now put the minutes to the vote by a show of hands. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 4. Has there been any correspondence?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to bring to the attention of Council that I received as Chief Executive a letter on the 18th of May from MHCLG Secretary of State. The letter referenced presenting 9 questions to authorities within the Nottinghamshire and City area for local government reorganisation. These 9 questions were in relation to preparing considerations for what will be the structural changes order required through the local government reorganisation process. We worked, pleased to report, we worked collaboratively with our neighbouring authority and partner authorities to gravitate around a collective response which was countersigned by 7 of the 9 authorities. The response is available, Chair, if members wish to have sight of its content. We achieved the response by the allotted deadline, which was the 16th of June. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 4. Has there been any correspondence? Sorry, item 5.
Thank you, Chair. There has been none.
Thank you. Item 6. Are there any advanced questions from elected members?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we've been in receipt of 1 question has been received.
Landrick, please put your question to the elected mayor.
Chair, the funding for Mansfield Connect was approved in January 2023 by the last Conservative government. Now, 3.5 years later, can the elected mayor provide an update on current spend to date on the project, the progress made in securing planning permission to regenerate the site, and as an explanation as to why permission has not yet been secured?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Landrick. Firstly, I'd like to confirm that the funding for Mansfield Connect was awarded only after the council had pulled together an application to the then government through a highly competitive process, and we were delighted to be successful. It's demonstrating my council's commitment to the regeneration of Mansfield. Just by a bit of background, Beale's department store went into administration in early 2020, and we purchased the Beale's department store for 2 million, and we used that as a 10% match fund to actually be successful initially to get 20 million, and then further 9 million towards this vital regeneration scheme. Mansfield Connect remains one of our top regeneration priorities, and I'm pleased to confirm that throughout we have retained the confidence of government in bringing this project forward. The development of the project to date has been facilitated through those grants secured that I just mentioned, and that means that no Mansfield District Council funding and resources has been used and been required. We are making great strides with the programme, and despite the complexities of this really difficult site, because of the site and the status of the existing buildings. In May this year, we saw the successful completion of the SOS strip asbestos clearance and removal of the bridges by Kia. It has been a very complicated task, the connection to the Four Seasons site, and it's in a really busy location, and maintaining public safety has been a high priority throughout this process. Our partnership with Kia has been of the highest professional standards. These advanced works have been cost around £3.2 million as a separate advanced works contract. But it's great to see that Stockwell Gate has actually seen daylight for the first time in years, and it's really improved the environment around the Four Seasons shopping centre. Works are now still proceeding with the facade where the bridges have been removed on the Four Seasons. Public consultations were held over the development of the new design, including an open online portal and an all-day session in the Four Seasons, taking views from members of the public. The preparations for the planning application remain in full development and are all but complete. We have had to take into account advisory matters from statutory and non-statutory agencies raised through a pre-planning application process. This information has proved invaluable in shaping the design and the technical requirements associated with the planning application of this significance and magnitude. So I'm grateful for the member to raise a question about this really high profile and vital regeneration scheme that is going to be transformational for Mansfield.
Thank you. Councillor Landrick, have you a supplementary question?
Yes. Is there any idea on timescales then for when it will be, planning will be submitted?
The whole process that we've been undertaken is to deliver it in the shortest time possible. That's why we split the contract into two works. By actually doing the advanced works, it's actually going to reduce the overall construction time when we start by up to 6 months, because all the dangerous asbestos materials will have been removed from the building. With regard to the timeline, because we're doing it in pre-application and our discussions with Historic England, Notts County Council Conservation, ensuring that we comply with the design code, the advanced survey information that we get since the contract has been in, it will be the quickest way to make sure there are no issues before we go to formal planning application. So it's close, but we're not quite there yet.
Thank you. Item 7. Councillor Bell, will you propose your recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. Treasury Management Report outturn 2025-26. Local authorities are required to approve an annual Treasury Management Strategy before the commencement of a new financial year.
Councillor, could you move nearer to the microphone? Thank you.
So my vocal cords
It's okay, thank you.
My apologies. I will start again. Treasury Management Report outturn 2025-26. Local authorities are required to approve an annual Treasury Management Strategy before the commencement of each new financial year. As per Section 3 of the report, Mansfield District Council approved its Treasury Management Strategy for 2025-26 on the 1st of March 25. And this report communicates how the council performed against the strategy during the period 1st of April 2025 to 31st of March 2026. The council's investment priorities remain the security of capital and good liquidity, whilst the council always seek to obtain the optimum return yield on all its investments. This will at all times be commensurate with appropriate levels of security and liquidity. Sections 4 and 5 of the report provide wider background to the economic context within the council's treasury decisions were taken. Section 6 discusses borrowing in the year as per section 6.1. During the 2025 financial year, the council took out 39 million in new loans. The council's total borrowing stood at 85.832 million as of the 31st of March 2026. The majority of this loan debt has been taken out with the Public Loan Works Loan Board, which offers preferential interest rates to local authorities. The majority of new loans taken out during the last 12 months have been shorter term than we might have previously borrowed at this level due to the advice from the TM advisors, MUFC, and we regularly discuss the best strategy for our borrowing needs with them. Section 7 discusses the council's investment throughout the year as per section 7.2 of the 31st of March 2026. The council had 14.5 million invested in financial institutions, the majority of which were held with other local authorities. Section 8 discussed the rate of return. The council received an average rate of 4.32% against an average base rate of 4.02% for 2025-26 as a result of the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee reducing the bank rate from 4.5% to 3.75% from April 2025 to December 2025. The budget for investment income 2025-26 was 532,000 compared against the actual investment income achievement of 832,833. This is due to higher interest rates compared to budget, which is a lower amount than the previous year. When investing money in banks and building societies, this council sets high credit criteria, which reduces the risk of the council not getting investments back due to default. The security and liquidity of the council's money is a main priority when investing public money, which means the rate of return is often lower than what would be achieved in a more risky financial institution, but with risk of default being much higher. During 2025-26, the council did not invest with any financial institutions which fell below the minimum level approved by the council when it set its treasury management strategy. I'd like to propose that to the council, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Dines, will you second the recommendation?
Yes, I will second.
Do you reserve the right to speak? Okay, thank you. Does anyone wish to comment on the motion? Thank you. Councillor Bell, do you wish to exercise your right to reply? Okay, thank you. We move to the vote. Can I have votes for? That's unanimous, thank you. Mate is a delegated decision of the portfolio holder for corporate and finance on the revenue and capital outturn position. Councillor Whitby, will you propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the Revenue and Capital Outturn Report for 2025 to 26. This report sets out the year-end position for both the General Fund and Housing Revenue Account and seeks approval for the capital carry forwards into the new financial year. It's been another challenging year for local government. This council has continued to face inflationary pressures, recruitment challenges, income pressures, and uncertainty around the future of funding and local government reorganisation. But despite that backdrop, Mansfield District Council has remained on course. On the General Fund, the council achieved a surplus against budget of 825,000. That surplus has been transferred to earmark reserves to support upcoming council projects, agree priorities and future pressures. This reflects the planned use of resources to support future investment and responsible financial management. On general fund balance at the end of March stood at 2.125 million, just above the minimum level approved by a full council. It remains relatively modest buffer, but it reflects the stable position at year end. On the housing revenue account, the council also ended the year with a surplus position, with those balances having been used to support the HRA capital programme in line with the 30-year HRA business plan. This means continue to invest in council homes and supporting housing assets whilst maintaining a sustainable HRA balance. There are pressures that we need to keep focused on. Higher void levels have affected dwelling rental income and recruitment remains difficult in some service areas. Business rates and some income budgets remain areas of risk. So whilst this is a positive outturn, we are by no means complacent. The report also sets out the capital programme position. There has been some slippage across both the General Fund and HRA programmes, with some major schemes taking longer than expected because of project complexity, procurement and delivery challenges and increased costs. This is not ideal, but these carry forwards are important. They ensure that we are committed funding. The committed funding is retained and approved schemes can continue into the next financial year. That includes investment in regeneration, council-owned property, parks, community facilities, fleet, ICT and our housing stock, including works to kitchens, bathrooms, roofs, heating, windows and doors, fire safety, damp and mould, adaptations and new build schemes. Taken together, this is about more than simply carrying forward budgets. It's about maintaining the momentum behind long-term investment in Mansfield, regeneration for a generation, whilst also continuing to invest in basic services, assets and homes that residents rely on. This report shows council has managed its finances carefully through 25-26, stayed within its financial framework, maintained its minimum balances and continued to support major investment across the district. I would like to thank the finance team, the Section 151 officer, the corporate leadership team and officers across the council for their diligent work throughout the year in maintaining budgets and managing pressures. Chair, I therefore move the recommendations as set out in the report, which is that the council approves the General Fund capital programme carry forwards from 2025-26 and approves the housing revenue account capital programme carry forwards from 2025-26. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Elected Mayor, will you second the recommendations?
Yes, I'll second and reserve the right.
Does anyone wish to comment on the motion? Elected Mayor, do you wish to exercise reserved right to speak?
Just to add that obviously incredible work by our team at Mansfield, but the commitment to investment via the public purse in Mansfield is really attracting inward investment and across the town. Anyone who kind of went to the Mansfield Now bid presentation, it was just quite phenomenal how many local entrepreneurs are investing in the town, and so it just shows that if you can lead the way with some public investment, it increases confidence and it's helping Mansfield move forward.
Councillor Whitby, do you wish to exercise your right to reply?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We now move to the vote. Can I have votes for? Thank you. That's a unanimous. Nine is the overview and scrutiny annual report. Councillor Henshaw, please will you present the report on behalf of the overview and scrutiny chairs?
Thanks, Chair, for allowing me to move the report. It's my pleasure to present the annual scrutiny report for this year, which details the contribution which the three overview and scrutiny committees have made to the Council's performance and decision-making processes. I would like to thank the contribution not only of the members of these committees, but also the contributions and support from the members of the executive who have attended. In addition, I must thank and support all those officers and other members who came to the meetings. Members will note the development work that has been led by our Assistant Director of Law and Governance and People, which is wholeheartedly endorsed not only by the committees but by the corporate leadership team and the Cabinet. These are measures to be put in place to try and make scrutiny more effective, and they're working well at the moment. I hope the report next year will be able to demonstrate the impact that these changes and developments in the scrutiny process have made. So that remains for us to look at. When the motion is not the motion, when the report is moved and seconded, I would hope that the two other committee chairs of the two other scrutiny committees will add to the debate and make comment on the work that they've done. With that chair, I move the annual report for the scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the report? No. Councillor Henshaw, will you propose the recommendation?
I'll move the recommendations outlined.
Thank you. Councillor Swinsko, will you second the recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to second this report and reserve the right.
Does anyone wish to comment on the motion? Councillor Camilleri.
Yes, I would say I'd like to Councillor Insurance Committee, I think it shows that scrutiny works. Scrutiny is so important to the running of the council. We have an opportunity as opposition to make our point. And we do make changes. They do make changes. I mean, on the other night came back with a good question I'd asked, came back, did it. And scrutiny works. And I think we ought to make that plain to people in this place who don't think scrutiny works. It's important, but scrutiny makes councils work. You don't just go and make your decisions. We are going to be there looking at what you're doing. We're going to find things to say. We're going to be annoying, but it really makes a difference on the way the council's run. I'd like to thank the committee and the officers for running, but I'm on 2 scrutiny committees and I find it excellent and they work really well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Swinscoe, do you wish to exercise your reserved right? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. I'll not go into sort of as chair of place. I'll not go into a full breakdown of everything done, but just briefly, just want to highlight we covered 14 reports over key issues in place: planning, regeneration, environmental services, capital projects, food waste. Major focus was on food waste delivery and extended producer responsibility funding, where a dedicated working group was explored with options for investing the funding. Recommendations included investing in a 4-day working week, increasing resources to reduce recycling contamination, and developing a business case for a community cafe and a repair shop. Recommendations were approved and referred to the portfolio holder. The topics also added to the committee's 26 to 27 work programme. If anyone does have any questions or wants any more detail on anything that we discuss in there, I would recommend you come to the meeting. I'd be more than happy to answer privately any questions on it. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair of the Community and Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee, we covered approximately 20 reports from staff that were absolutely excellent in relation to public spaces protection order, private sector housing, an overview of environmental health, housing, management update, community service partnership, leisure centre update, home finder homelessness, rough sleeping, local policing priorities where the police come to give a report and answer questions. And in respect to the PSPO, the committee recommended that the current PSPO be extended by 3 years. Portfolio holder for wellbeing, health and safety communities supported that recommendation. It was approved in September of last year. We're currently on with a working group in relation to HMOs and whether they should be restricted by the planning. Article 4, we met first on the 17th of May. We met again last night and we next meeting in September, pending some data on the cost and the workings of how the planning department could or could not cope with putting new applications for all HMOs under the planning regulations, or Article 4, should I say. I'd like to thank Democratic Services for their help and advice for both of us as new chairs, and obviously with all of the changes in relation to how we are making scrutiny better. That's definitely helped us all and made scrutiny much better over the past few months at least. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to make a comment? Right. Councillor Swinscoe, do you wish to exercise your reserved right to speak?
I do, yes, thank you, Chair. So I do think that this report highlights the important role that scrutiny plays in improving the decision-making of policies constructively. So I'd also like to recognise the work that goes into these proposals and the work done by everybody, including the officers and members and Democratic Services. It's just thanking for the dedication and the challenge that's gone into the scrutiny process. Thank you.
you. Councillor Henshaw, do you wish to exercise your right to reply?
Just briefly, Chair, thanks. And thanks everybody for the contributions. Councillor Camilleri, as you know, I've always tried to be inclusive in the corporate committee, welcome people to question, and I think, give people the opportunity to participate in the debate. And I think that in itself lends to good scrutiny. Councillor Stevenson and Councillor Tempest Mitchell, obviously two different committees looking at different aspects of this council's work, but it just shows you, I think, the logic that a few meetings ago when we decided to retain the three scrutiny committees so that a broader breadth of investigation and reports can be looked at. So I think that was, the correct way to go down. Councillor Swinscoe, yeah. Behind any committee there is a hive of officers and even chairs and vice chairs who have to have additional meetings before the reports are finalised and to contribute. And I think that, again, it's a strength for us that we don't take scrutiny lightly, but we see it as an important function of this council. And with the changes that we've made at sort of in the planning stages to ensure that things come onto the committees and onto the agenda, which we can discuss and look into. I mean, for instance, for corporate, we've started looking at the Arts Council MPO, and the Arts Council representatives came to our meeting and made comment that they thought that it was one of the best scrutiny committees that scrutinised their reports. So it does work, and again, I'd just like to thank all the officers for their support and contributions. Thank you, Chair.
We now move to the vote. Can I have votes for? Unanimous. The motion is carried. Item 10 is the annual report on the use of special urgency and call-in waiver. Nancy, please will you present your report?
Thank you, Chair. So this report meets the constitutional requirement to report both exemptions from call-in procedures and use of special urgency procedures to Council for noting. 3 decisions have been subject to these procedures in the last 12 months. Both of those decisions were subject to both procedures, and they're set out in the report. The procedures were applied based on the urgency at the time of the decision and the risk to the council if those decisions were delayed. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this report? Mayor, will you propose the recommendations?
Yes, proposal recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Whitby, will you second the recommendation?
I will second those recommendations and reserve the right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to comment on the motion? Councillor Whitby, do you wish to exercise your reserved right to speak?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Elected Mayor, do you wish to exercise your right to reply?
No, nothing to add.
We will now move to the vote. Can I have votes for? Thank you. The motion is carried. Item 11, Council is requested to note the appointment of Councillor North to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Communities and Services. Sorry. I invite the monitoring officer to present the item.
Thank you, Chair. So this is just for council to note. So if you recall at the annual council meeting, council delegated authority to me to make appointments to committees where vacancies had arisen based on the recommendations and in accordance with the wishes of the relevant group where that vacancy has arisen. Following the resignation of Councillor Hartshorn from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for Communities and Services, Councillor North was nominated by the group to fill that vacancy, and I took the decision to appoint him to that committee. But that's on the condition that it's reported to council for noting, which is what this item is doing.
Can the council please raise your hand to note the appointment? That's noted. Thank you. Item 12 is motions. Are there any motions for today's meetings?
There is one, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, will you propose the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to bring this motion to council this evening in the spirit of working together and working across different authorities. In my health and wellbeing portfolio capacity and in support of our colleagues at Newark and Sherwood District Council as we approach LGR, also noting in my role as the appointed governor for Sherwood Forest Hospitals Trust, I'm bringing the motion to council this evening. Many patients will wait significant periods of time in A&E or on the assessment units at Kingsmill for an acute hospital bed. This applies to patients who live in Mansfield District as well as patients in Newark. The availability of acute beds depends on the movement or flow of patients through the system from acute to rehab beds. Beds in non-acute wards, such as those at Newark, should be available for patients who may no longer require an acute bed, but still need some hospital care. I personally know of 2 patients who've been offered transfer to Newark in the past, so it's not unusual. However, those beds are often occupied by patients who, while medically fit for discharge, are awaiting care packages, assessments by social care, or other pre-discharge arrangements. I'm advised that pre-COVID there was an adult social services team based at Newark Hospital, and the evidence appeared to point to this delivering timelier discharges for those patients. Just as a bit of background, it's not unusual for patients waiting for up to 14 days or over 14 days for discharge from Newark Hospital, but it's obviously distressing for patients and families. But also, and this is why I've brought it here tonight, it ties up much needed beds across the Trust's 3 sites, causing patients in the Kingsmill Emergency Department to be delayed. And that's where it can directly affect patients from our district. There's a little bit of an example in the report. In December last year, there were 10 beds tied up at Newark Hospital. So there was a cost of that of £350 per bed per night. So there's a financial cost to this, but there's a real cost really when you look at patients awaiting the transfer from A&E to a bed. Bear with me, I've just lost my... So I'm going to give you some the rationale as to why I've brought this when it seems to be about Newark. This is really important for patients of Mansfield and District because most of our patients will either choose to go to Kingsmill Hospital or they'll be directed to Kingsmill Hospital. Once seen and assessed in the A&E department, patients may then experience a long wait for a bed on an acute ward, and I am aware that they've declared a critical incident at the hospital this evening, so this is real and it's happening now. The flow of patients through the system and the availability of beds depends on the timely discharge or transfer of patients who no longer require an acute bed, and beds at Newark are a key part of this system. So in a nutshell, anything that facilitates the discharge of patients from these beds will have a positive impact on the front door where our patients are waiting. So the motion that I'm proposing seeks the support of this council to write to the Director of Adult Social Care in support of both Sherwood Forest Hospital Trust and our colleagues at Newark and Sherwood District Council, asking that consideration be given to return the adult social care resource to Newark Hospital to help address some of the discharge delays that are caused by its absence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Moxon, will you second this motion?
Yes, I'll second the motion and reserve the right. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to comment on this motion? Councillor Anderson. Answer.
Thank you. Very similar proposal as this has been to Newark and Sherwood District Council meeting and been discussed by them, and a meeting was held with the Director for Adult Social Care afterwards with the relevant people. But if I could say that Adult Social Care were asked pre-COVID to leave the hospital site in Newark as the hospital wanted the space back. During COVID, all social workers were asked not to work from hospital settings for obvious reasons. During and since COVID, discharge arrangements across the country have moved to a discharge to assess models, often referred to as D2A. This model means that the patients in hospital are seen in the touch, which is transfer of care hub, and are looked at under D2A model. Pathway 0, patients do not need ongoing care and can be discharged. Pathway 1, patients are needing some sort of ongoing rehabilitation service. This is by far the greater group of patients, and they receive this either via health or social care. Pathway 2 is more complex and may require a more specialist type of provision, and usually is not a return to home. Once people on Pathway 1 are discharged with reablement, most of these will be reabled and not need ongoing care or support. Of others that do need ongoing social care support, this will be assessed in their own home by a social worker or occupational therapist, hence why we do not put all social workers, other than those in the touch, that is based in Kingsmill Hospital, which gets better outcomes for patients as they are assessed in their own environment, not in the hospital environment. I am more than, Guy is certainly more than happy as the director, do what he did at Newark and Sherwood District Council and meet with people to discuss this motion. So there are a number of reasons why people don't come out straight away, obviously. It could be the fact that there's no home for them to go to. It could be the fact that there needs some enablement stuff being done in the house, like, stuff to be, so they keep them in the home so they can look after them. So there are a number of reasons for that. It's not just simply just get them out. It's a question of make sure they come out and they're looked after in a proper way. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to comment on the motion? Councillor Swinsky.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor Jackson to bringing this to meeting's attention. There's clearly a problem, and I'm not quite sure what Councillor Answer is actually saying, but if people, it's a problem with the adult social care because people aren't getting that support that they needed. So I'm hoping that the portfolio holder for adult social care as well will support this in conjunction with the CEO. Thank you.
Councillor Spindle.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do understand what Councillor Answer has just said. However, we've just had a report on the annual scrutiny report, and I believe that as a council or even members of the public, it is possible and it can be checked for us to submit to Notts County Council for scrutiny to be done on this very subject. Therefore, whatever the outcome is, might hold more strength than just writing to the County Council. I know this might be a piece of work that needs to be done afterwards, but that would be my suggestion. It is a motion and I could change the wording, but at this stage I think it's wrong to change this wording. But I would like to think that in the future the possibility of submitting this subject to Notts County Council after their constitution has been checked on this matter would be probably a good idea to do so, and then the outcome would be very different. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henshaw.
Thanks, Chair. I'm glad that Councillor Answer's made comment to this, because I think this is a well put motion in relation to a major problem that we have in the health service, i.e. People cannot access beds because they're being blocked by people who may well need or could be discharged into the community or into their own home. So by having this centralised system, remote system, I think it's creating more problems than the actual system that it replaced. When we had social workers in individual hospitals and we didn't have to wait for internet connections and all these sorts of things, the patients could be visited while they were actually in the hospital. The care package could be looked at and formulated, and then people could get discharged. It's in everybody's interest, not saying that, it's in the interests of the patient, that they get discharged as quickly as possible. We need to get people out of hospital so that the beds are then available for other people. So I'm glad that Councillor Answer is going to look at this in relation to possibly making changes, and I would hope that they revert back to the system they had prior to COVID, when the hospitals have their own people to look at individuals. And I think it's an important issue, and I think we need to look at it. In relation to whether or not the County Council will scrutinise it, then that's for somebody at the County Council, I think, to put forward in their own processes. But our motion in support of Newark and Sherwood District Council, that's passed a similar motion. And don't forget, Newark and Sherwood have some specific problems because of the rural nature of their constituency, which means that, you know, they have to really focus in on two issues when they get people out of hospital. So I hope that Council will support the motion as put, and that Councillor Answer, when he in his position as portfolio holder for adult social care, looks at it in more detail. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Ellis.
I wholeheartedly support my colleague. My thoughts with Councillor Answer's question is about people being assessed once they've got home. And I'm sure myself and others have heard and know of people that have been discharged, often late at night, often by ambulance, and then the ambulance service have refused to take them out of the ambulance because the home wasn't safe for them, and have brought them back. And I think that's very upsetting for the patient, also possibly for the family who's been told they've been discharged and then they've been back. And it would be a lot better for all concerned for them to be assessed within the hospital, because we do know that what some people will tell you isn't quite the same as what happens when you walk through the door. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Moxon, do you wish to exercise your reserved right to speak?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you to Councillor Jackson for giving me the opportunity to second this motion and give it much needed cross-party support. This motion, as you've already heard, which mirrors a similar motion at Newark and Sherwood District Council last month, essentially seeks to get us back to a pre-pandemic scenario. When Councillor Jackson first mentioned it to me, I think my first response to her was, it's a bit of a no-brainer. And people might wonder what this has to do with our district, given it's very Newark-centric, but however, it does have a knock-on effect to the lives of our residents, as it can free up beds at Kings Mill that would otherwise be needlessly taken up by people that could be transferred to Newark. And it gives people a better choice. I myself last year had the opportunity to have an x-ray done at Newark Hospital instead of a longer wait at Kings Mill. I was in and out in 15 minutes and I didn't have the headache of wondering if I'd find a parking space in time. I was lucky in that I had the means to get there easily and was able to be flexible. So I can highly recommend going to Newark if you've got that flexibility to free up resources at Kings Mill. Scrutiny on this subject would be a great idea. And I really do hope that the County Council could indeed do that piece of work. I'm hoping that Councillor Answer was for the motion. I guess we'll soon find out. But I do hope that he will keep an open mind on this subject and reevaluate the possibility of enacting this suggestion. So I'd urge councillors of all political colours and persuasions, and those of none, to join us and vote in favour of this motion tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson, do you wish to exercise your right to reply?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank everybody that's spoken tonight, particularly Councillor Answer. And I did understand what Councillor Answer was explaining, what he was explaining with the different reasons why people are delayed in hospital. And there are several different codes for those reasons. So I thank him very much for his contribution. I am aware that there are multiple issues that affect people's discharge from hospital, not just whether they've got a social care package. I am aware, for example, that patients in this area have more housing issues, and that's often the primary reason for them being delayed. So this is just the start of a conversation and the start of a piece of work that I'm leading on as the appointed governor. However, in conversation with my colleague at Newark and Sherwood, who took the motion to Newark and Sherwood, we agreed it was still important to bring it here, to have the conversation, to write to the Director of Social Care. He is aware of this issue, he has met with Newark, but he is willing to work with us on this. And I think what we're doing by supporting this motion, which I hope you all will, is we're saying to him, we're all in this together and we all want to work together for the good of our patients. So thank you those that have contributed, and I would like to move that we vote for the motion now. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to the vote. Can I have votes for? That's unanimous. The motion is carried. Item 13, 14 and 15 are all concern a report on Walkden Street car park funding for surrender of lease. As these items are interdependent, I suppose that Council considers them currently and in a way that minimises the number of times we are required to go into private session. I therefore propose the public report is presented. We then vote on whether to go into private session for the presentation of the exempt appendix. Subject to the vote passing, the exempt appendix will be presented and we will then remain in private session to take any questions and comments on the exempt appendix. We then return to public session for questions and comments on the public report before moving to vote. Please could I have a show of hands in support of this order of business? Thank you. Elected Mayor, will you present your report?
Well, the report funding for the surrender of the lease is set out on pages 103 to 114 of your pack. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval for borrowing to fund for the surrender of the lease for Walkden Street car park. This has been brought about in part by Tesco's claim against the council and to approve the funding of the financial implications associated with this decision. This report also seeks council approval of the revised Treasury management indicators. So the arrangements set out in the report are subject to ongoing negotiations with the relevant parties and therefore have not been finalised. Should any subsequent amendment require a formal decision, these will be dealt with in accordance with the Council's governance procedures. So the reason for this recommendation, as you'll all be aware, was a partial collapse of Walkden Street car park in August 2025 and a Section 78 notice served by the Building Control Officer. The Council have been in ongoing negotiations with the owners about the future of the car park. These negotiations, which are yet to conclude, have resulted in the opportunity for the council to buy ourselves out of the lease. To do so requires additional borrowing as set out in the report. So exiting the lease removes future costs of the lease to the council, which could amount to tens of millions of pounds, as set out in paragraph 3.1. So the background is that the council had a 99-year lease on Walkden Street car park, and it commenced in September 75, and it has 48 years remaining of unexpired lease. So the council leased the car park from Tesco, who leased the wider site from Vanelli Investing Corporation. So under the rental terms alone, the remainder of the lease, further cash payments of 16.304 million would be payable. This rent is non-negotiable and it's based upon a predetermined formula, being 50% of the superstore annual rental agreement between Tesco's and the freeholder, and it can only be reviewed on an upward basis, which means it can't be decreased. A further requirement of the lease is that following demolition, the council would be required to rebuild the entire building, maintain the asset for a period of the lease to ensure it remains in a usable condition, and then comply with particular owners' responsibilities in terms of repairs and maintenance. And the requirements are pretty unquantifiable. But we expect that could be tens of millions of pounds and significantly in excess of the borrowing cost proposed in this report. So within the current capital programme, there is a scheme to refurbish Walkden Street car park totalling 2.447 million, which has to be funded from borrowing. So the council's medium-term financial plan includes the ongoing cost of rent repayments due under the lease, as well as the borrowing implications of the capital scheme, and they're indicated in Table 1. The car park was subject to partial collapse in August 2025, which led to the Section 78 notice, and we've been under those ongoing negotiations. As a result of those negotiations with Tesco's and the freeholder, the council are required to pay £10 million as part of a tripartite agreement between council, Tesco and the freeholder to surrender its portion of the lease liability. So as part of this agreement, the council will also be responsible for the demolition of the building at £497,858. Surrender of the lease will also release the council from all past, present and future liabilities related to the lease, and will constitute a full and final settlement of Tesco's legal action against the council under the lease. In addition, the council will incur additional one-off costs relating to professional fees, site security and in-year lease liabilities as set out in Table 2. The council will also incur some legal costs, which will be covered from the council's legal reserve, as part of the tripartite agreement will incur costs related to security of this site for a maximum of 12 months from completion of demolition. It is envisaged that the latter will be covered from the existing property budgets. So although the council is to spend £10 million as a result of these negotiations, the additional borrowing approval is only required for the 7.533 million. The estimated cost of the borrowing is summarised in Table 3. The actual cost of borrowing will vary depending on when the actual borrowing takes place and will be subject to further management, treasury manager advice, and the estimates above assume borrowing over 48 years to ensure that the transaction is affordable and has minimum impact on the council's ongoing revenue position. And that information is set out in Table 4. I don't think I'm going to continue with the rest. It's all there, set out in the tables, and that is the end of my report at this point in time.
Thank you. I now propose that we vote on moving into private session to consider the information contained within the exempt appendix. The information is exempt under paragraphs 3 and 5 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 because it contains commercially sensitive information and information subject to legal privilege. It is not in public interest to disclose this information, as to do so could jeopardise the council's position in the ongoing negotiations. Can I have votes for moving into private session? Unanimous. Thank you. That's carried. Please can I ask all members of the press and public to leave the chamber. We will advise you when we move back into public session. The live stream of the meeting will also be suspended for the during of the private session.